Hare Krishna. Chickens? He's happy. Sarvabhauma Prabhu. Jayadvaita Maharaj requests a grihasta between him and Mataji. So it will be a very devoted service. I am very honored and fortunate to be amongst all of you again. Just yesterday morning, by Krishna's grace, we returned after approximately 6 months in separation from this most kind and benevolent congregation of Vaishnavas. Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, His Holiness, has come. It is truly a fortune of our temple that he considers this one of his homes in this world. He is a great Parivrajacharya, Swami Maharaj, who travels throughout the entire world, on practically all continents, inspiring people in pure, unconditional, uncompromised devotional service. Wherever you find a major Ratha Yatra, if you want to see Jayadvaita Maharaj, just go to the question and answer booth. He has actually become a legend in this sense. New York Ratha Yatra, San Francisco Ratha Yatra, Los Angeles, wherever Ratha Yatras I go, he'll sit from morning till night, non-stop, sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours, with large crowds around him of conditioned souls, some challenging, some seriously criticizing, some inquiring submissively, some just neutrally sitting around and watching. In a city like New York, there's every kind of person. There's people who come with their girlfriends to show how they could philosophically mug the Swami in the streets of New York. I have seen. And Maharaj defeats and satisfies literally everyone's hearts. last year in Rathayatra in New York, I witnessed some fundamental, extremist, born-again Christians coming and attacking that he and our movement is going to hell if we don't accept Jesus as the way, the light, and the truth, and there's no other way to the Father except through him. And this person just went on and on and on. And Jayadvaita Maharaj, so expert. He just very calmly explained to everybody what was good about what this person was saying, and then expertly defeated the illusions in such a way that everyone in the audience, actually this person brought a good crowd too. These people in New York like competitive sports. And the person was satisfied being defeated. And everyone else was joyful. There was no question in anybody's mind that Krishna consciousness answers all questions. Jayadvaita Maharaj is he's the acharya of questions and answers. And that because he has such a transparently clear intelligence and such divine realizations, and it is all born of his complete faith and surrender at the lotus feet of his Guru Maharaj, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Let us once again welcome him to Sri Radha Gopinath Thakur. We have a very, very, very special guest who has come for the very first time, Kusha Devi Mataji. In her own right, she's a courageous preacher and devotee. Although most simple, humble, mild nature, motherly person, in the service of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas, she's one of the pillars of strength of our society. One of the most, I was speaking the other day, one of the most difficult temples historically in our society has been Honolulu, Hawaii. It's like some sort of a subterranean, heavenly, hellish planet. Material conditions are unbelievable. They're so beautiful. It's a paradise. Didn't Prabhupada say it's the closest thing to a heavenly planet on earth?
It's left over from a previous age. Srila Prabhupada said that Hawaii is left over from a previous age. He also said many yogis have taken birth there. Something like Laguna Beach, that he also put Panchatattva in both locations. At first he was going to install Radha Krishna deities, and then he changed his mind and he asked us to put Gornitai. But then he expanded the mercy to Panchatattva.
So when there was no one else who wanted to take charge of the temple, she was asked and she agreed. She is now the temple president of Honolulu, Hawaii. And she's by the integrity of her character, by her exemplary sadhana, by her kind and generous and compassionate nature, she's actually reuniting and making so many people faithful to the path of true bhakti. And her good husband are the ministers of GBC ministers for the Grihastha Ashram for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Her husband is Shrutikirti Prabhu, who you have read about in the histories of Prabhupada. He was the longest standing personal servant of Srila Prabhupada. And together as a team, they are one of the most outstanding forms of inspiration for our society. So we're so very much happy she is here. For several years I have asked her to come, and alas, she has come. Let us welcome very enthusiastically Kusha Mataji to Sri Radha Gopinath.
To get your association. As far as the Grihastha ministry is concerned, this temple, under the expert guidance and inspiration of Raadhanath Maharaj, is setting the real standard of how things should be done. So I'm here to get your association and your inspiration and your instruction. Thank you so much.
One of the dearmost disciples of His Holiness Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, Sarvabhauma Prabhu. Sarvabhauma Prabhu came to Krishna consciousness I believe in 1979. '78. 1980. And he's been very faithfully serving His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj for all those years. In fact, when Srila Goswami Maharaj was living in Cambridge for the last several years, Sarvabhauma Prabhu was personally taking care of all of his needs. He and his good wife arranged the house and arranged all facilities for him. Tamal Krishna Goswami had complete faith and trust in the sincerity of his surrender and his devotion. Although he's very, very humble, very sweet-natured, he's really an empowered soul, very capable, and an example in our society of a person who, through all circumstances and situation, is completely sold out to the service of Guru and Gauranga. Today I feel that our most beloved Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj has appeared within our temple through the divine association of his beloved and trusted disciple. So, on behalf of Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami, Sarvabhauma Prabhu is here. Let us offer our very, very enthusiastic and sincere welcome to him today. Thank you, Father. We also have our dear God sister Nartaki Mataji, who is a resident of Bhaktivedanta Hospital. We could introduce her every week, but she will not be happy if I do that. This song by Thakur Bhaktivinoda is revealing the gratitude of his heart. Although declaring himself to be wicked and fallen, he's feeling great joy. That joy springs from the gratitude he has to his spiritual masters who have given him the connection to the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To have that connection is the greatest fortune. To remember that in all situations is our greatest strength. Today on the altar, I was seeing these very beautifully made diorams of Shri Krishna Balaramji. Srila Prabhupada told us that we should pray to Lord Balaramji for spiritual strength. We become strong, and we are also tested in our strength when there is resistance. On the physical level, if a person wants to be very strong, he has to accept so much resistance. It's like some people, they lift the weights. That means they're enduring so much gravitational resistance, lifting when the weights are pushing themselves down and lifting and pushing. Or some athletes, they run, so much resistance. You want to stop. You're tired, you're fatigued, but you just keep running and running and running. So physical strength comes through accepting and tolerating resistance and pushing forward despite all this resistance. And mental strength. Those of you who go to college, you know there's so much resistance in studies. And the more you just push forward despite lethargy, despite so many other things you'd like to do, it's almost oppressive to the mind. In spiritual life also, we become very strong when we are willing to carry through in our devotional service despite resistance. Krishna says in Gita, Tam statiksha svabharata. One must be willing to learn to tolerate all circumstances without being disturbed. And Prabhupada says, without being disturbed means your devotional service goes on. It continues. And where do we get that spiritual strength from? It doesn't come from our own determination alone. It comes by the mercy of the Lord. The Acharyas explain in the Damodar Lila that when Yashoda Mai was trying to bind Krishna with rope, it was 2 fingers too short. In order to attract Krishna, we must understand what these 2 fingers represent. One is our own determination, our own sincerity, our own desire. She just wouldn't give up. 1 rope, 2 inches too short. She tied it to another rope. Again, 2 fingers too short. Another. There were hundreds of ropes, and she didn't give up. Determination. But ultimately, even if she put billions and trillions of ropes, although Krishna's waist remained the same size, it was impossible to bind him. It was only possible by his mercy. That is the second principle. We must pray for, we must depend upon the mercy of the Lord. But at the same time, God helps those who help themselves. We must show our desire by our determined efforts. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that for one who surrenders to me, I will preserve what they have and I will carry what they lack. Simply we have to surrender. But part of surrender is having faith in the mercy of the Lord, depending on the mercy of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says, we find that faith when we offer prayers to Lord Balaram. Balaramji is the original spiritual master. The representatives of Balaram is our Diksha Gurus, our Shiksha Gurus, those people who are inspiring us in Krishna consciousness. Through them we receive Balaram's mercy, and we can have the unlimited strength to overcome all difficulties and be happy. This year, on Lord Sri Balaram's appearance day, I was in San Diego, California, in the United States. I would like to narrate a wonderful incident that I happened to observe at that time. While I was there, I heard that one of my very dear beloved godbrothers was in an extremely sickly condition. Disciple of Srila Prabhupada named Raadhanath Das Prabhu. For those of you who have been associated with our society in India for many years, perhaps you know him, because he lived in India for many years. Hare Krishna. When he came to Krishna consciousness, he was a young man. Good health. He was on the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, risking his life, enthusiastically distributing books and preaching. Then, by the inconceivable arrangement of providence, he contracted a very painful, incurable disease. His body became emaciated and weak due to some problems with back and spine. His legs could not operate anymore. He was an invalid who could not go anywhere without being pushed on a wheelchair. And even in that state, Raadhanath Prabhu was just so enthusiastic, so grateful to be a devotee, so grateful to be amongst devotees, so grateful to have had Prabhupada's mercy. Always preaching, always trying to share his fortune with others. Just a couple months ago, some complication took place in his disease. And they had to amputate both of his legs. Painful operation. They cut off both legs. He was laying in the hospital. We invited him to Radha Giridhari's temple for the festival of Balaram's appearance. he came. When I saw him being in a helpless condition, he was being pushed by someone else on a wheelchair. His face is about this thin. His arms are about this thin. Literally. His chest is about like this. And he has no legs. He could hardly move his body in any direction. And he's only in his 40s. He's not an old man. He was just patiently in the back of the temple during the kirtan, and everyone was in front of him. So we happened to see him, and we pushed him forward to come and have a nice darshan of deities. I was looking at him as he was looking at the beautiful form of the Lord. In his eyes, there was such joy. There was such gratitude. He was telling me how grateful he was to these people working in the hospital because they allowed him to come to see Lord Balaram on his appearance day. Because according to the hospital rules and regulations, a person who just got out of a surgery like that was not allowed out of the hospital. He was so grateful to them. And he was so grateful for the devotees for inviting him. Now, a man like this who has done practically 30 years of selfless service on a wheelchair, it's expected that you invite him. But he was grateful that devotees remembered him, thought of him, and invited him. And how immensely grateful he was to Krishna and Balaram for allowing him on this auspicious day to come before them, as undeserving and unqualified as he thought he was, to see them. He actually had tears of joy in his eyes. The next day I went to hospital to visit him. He was sitting with his japa beads, just chanting japa. And so many people were coming. And he was preaching to them. Although he could hardly talk because his voice was so weak and choked up. He was preaching to them about what a wonderful life it was in Krishna consciousness. No complaints. No thoughts. Why is Krishna doing this to me? No thoughts that I'm in such an invalid, difficult situation, I might as well give up. What can I do? He was calling people on the telephone, hours a day. Excuse me. He was calling them. Devotees having difficulties in their spiritual lives, encouraging them, giving them strength, giving them faith, preaching to them. Conditioned souls who he is sincerely trying to help bring to the path of bhakti. He's actually making devotees. Now, most people, if they see a person in that condition, they'll think, do I want to be a devotee if this is what their God is doing to him? But he's just preaching about the glories and the auspiciousness of a life in Krishna consciousness. the sweet nectar of the holy name, the great wealth of the association of devotees with such gratitude, with such realization. He's sharing this with people, and they're getting strength. They're becoming convinced. He also has such love for children. He's continuing a newsletter to help children become Krishna conscious. On several fields, he's so active in sharing the nectar of the great fortune that he has received. We can ask ourselves, we may have some difficulties, but what are our difficulties in comparison to his? He will never get his legs back. He'll never get his health back. He hasn't had it for 20 years. But he doesn't complain. He hasn't lost faith or hope. He gives faith. He gives hope. He rejoices in receiving the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. I was thinking, that is good health. That is real wealth. That internal disposition where you could remain strong in your faith rather than feeling sorry for yourself. You're outreaching to do something wonderful for others, considering other people's problems your problem. Para dukkha dukhi. He's preaching to others. Happily chatting all of his rounds and more every day. So, my friends, whenever things are difficult, whenever our mind, our body, or the environment around us is not acting according to our master plan in life, remember Raadhanath Prabhu. How many hundreds or not thousands of times worse off is he than us? And how he's living with grateful faith in the service of his Guru Maharaj, of the Vaishnavas, and Krishna. Devotees in that temple in San Diego, when they saw him having the darshan of Krishna Balaram and Sri Radha Giridhari, many were thinking, I wish I had what he has. Devotees who were young, healthy, dancing. But they understood that what this emaciated person, diseased in a wheelchair with no legs at all, who could hardly move, he had a type of health. He had a type of strength that can only be received by the causeless mercy of Sri Guru and Gauranga. That is strength. By the power of faith, all obstacles can be overcome. That faith comes in the association of devotees, by serving, by honoring, by respecting, by not offending. That faith comes by following the 4 regulative principles of no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, meat eating. That faith comes by sincerely adhering our hearts to our vow of chanting the holy names of Krishna. Sincerely, with enthusiasm. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When Prabhupada was in his last days in Vrindavan, he looked at us and smiled and said, "Do not think that this will not happen to you." Old age, disease, and death are inevitable for the material body. Opposition by the circumstantial environment around us is inevitable within this world. A devotee is always looking for the positive opportunity. I was recently listening to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada. It was an arrival address. Srila Prabhupada said that on my way here, I was in an airplane, and the pilot called me into the cockpit to ask me questions. And Srila Prabhupada really seemed to like this pilot. He said he was a very intelligent man, very sincere. He asked me a question. "Swamiji, if God is good and everything comes from God, He's the origin of everything, that why is there evil? Why is there bad?" How many of you have asked that question in your life? Srila Prabhupada said, this was a very good question, very intelligent question. He praised the pilot for asking such a question. He praised him so much that while listening to the tape, I was wondering if he was going to get around to answering the question. Then he gave the answer. He said, "I told that pilot that the sun planet is full of unlimited light. There is no darkness in the sun. And if you turn your face to the sun, you will only see light. But if you turn your back to the sun, then you will see the darkness of your shadow." Now the sun is the cause of the shadow. But there's no darkness in the sun. Darkness is born of turning our back away from God, who is the Supreme Sun. And in that darkness is evil, inauspiciousness, and all the negative qualities of this material world. The scriptures tell us that the ultimate problem in this world is ignorance. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there's only one problem in this world, lack of Krishna consciousness. That means ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of all darkness, of all miseries and sufferings. And there's only one solution: to turn again to the effulgent, unlimited light of Krishna's mercy. So a devotee, even while living in the darkness of this world, is always turning his face to the unlimited light of Krishna. Therefore, a devotee always has hope. A devotee sees positive opportunity in every situation. Just like it is explained. You can say the glass is half full, or you could say the glass is half empty with water. If you think it's half empty, you're depressed. If you think it's half full, you're overjoyed. Every situation, according to our perception, we create what is our reality in life. When we see every situation is an opportunity to surrender, an opportunity to go deeper in our devotion, our opportunity to take shelter of the name of the Lord and the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master and the deities. That's what life is for, to take shelter. Tatenukampam susamikshamano punjana evatna kritam vibhagam. Even in the most miserable, painful, inconceivable situations of life, if we look for the opportunity for Krishna, if we turn to Krishna, we will be enlightened. On Balaram's appearance day, I learned this lesson from our dear Raadhanath Prabhu. What is real wealth? What is real strength? What is Krishna consciousness? And whatever our situation is, remember Raadhanath Prabhu, please. Be joyful. Be hopeful. And see the chance to surrender to Krishna and to give Krishna to others. While laying in his bed, without being able to move, he was literally rejoicing his good fortune and his life. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Kusha Mataji, please speak something for the pleasure of all of the devotees.
Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I am really very, very happy to get all of your association. It's a great treasure and a blessing, and I will cherish this time that I've spent here always. I've been taking some footage so I can share it with the temple devotees. They asked me to keep a diary so they could share in the travels. And I'm just so encouraged to see such a wonderful caliber of devotion and such, like Srila Prabhupada said, happy, shiny faces here at this temple. So it's almost as if you're all demigods. I'm just looking at the caliber of the devotees here. It's so high quality. And just seeing Srila Prabhupada here, this Murti of Srila Prabhupada, he's smiling. He's smiling. He's so happy to see that finally high-quality devotees are coming. Srila Prabhupada said, somehow Krishna has sent me 10th class men. But by this process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Srila Prabhupada had such firm faith in this process that in spite of the fact that we were all 10th class men, drug addicts, the dregs of the planet, somehow or other, Srila Prabhupada, he was also very proud. He turned hippies into happies. But then there was a point he became a little disappointed with us because we fell back. Some of us would fall back because of our conditioning. And he asked us, he said, my Guru Maharaj, he has asked that I come and preach to the Westerners, and my desire is that you will preach to the Indians. And he explained to us, he said, they are just very advanced. To be taking birth in India is very advanced position. But so many are going in the opposite direction. They're looking after technology and Western civilization, and they're rushing after following the example of the West. So my desire is for you to give this Krishna consciousness to the Indians. And he gave many examples. He said, it's really interesting, he said, just like the blind man and the lame man, together they can do something. India has the vision, and America at that time had the wealth. So he was saying that we are just like we're having the legs and we're having some strength, but India has the vision. But now in 2002 I'm beginning to see there may be, India is not only having vision, it's having legs. It's having all facility. And I'm very happy to see that this process is attracting so many wonderful, very, very high class, first class. Prabhupada said there are 3 classes of man when he was describing about his personal servants. He said there's a first class man. You don't even have to tell them what to do. They just do it nicely. Then there's a second class man. You tell them what to do and they do it. And then there's the third class man. You tell them what to do and they have difficulty or they somehow cannot do it properly. They need further instruction. And we came and we were 10th class. Srila Prabhupada had really what he had to work with, the ingredients that he had to work with. I have to admit, it was sheer magic. By the mercy of Krishna, what he was able to do with a motley group of young people fully intoxicated and addicted in the material world. Srila Prabhupada, he gave us Krishna and he gave us that taste. There was one point in Hawaii where the temple was in very big difficulty. Srila Prabhupada came personally and he cooked for us and he took care of us just like a kind father. Our minds were all disturbed because the deity worship wasn't going on nicely and the temple was in complete disarray. The management had blooped. And Srila Prabhupada personally came and took care of us at an advanced age. It's so hard to imagine how he came. At that time, I had just given birth about 1 month earlier, and I was watching Srila Prabhupada from outside the curtain prepare. He was making kachoris and cooking for the devotees. He himself was cooking for his own disciples because we weren't capable. He was doing everything. And by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, so much is going on. So much is going on. It's continuing to go on. By the instructions that he's given us, just by following those instructions, a simple process. Srila Prabhupada said, chant, chant, chant. And he said, we're saying can't, can't, can't. But still, Srila Prabhupada encouraged us, like spoon-feeding a child. And somehow we could learn to walk, we could learn to talk in Krishna consciousness, and we learned to act properly in Krishna consciousness. And gradually, it's so wonderful to see such exquisite devotion, the reflection of Srila Prabhupada coming through all of his disciples. It's just an exquisite, it's a miracle, it's a sheer miracle. It is the grace of Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada always gave us the instruction by what we could follow. There were times that Srila Prabhupada would very gently, maybe compromise, we may say, because he saw we couldn't do something at that moment. And then a little later on, when he saw we were strong enough, then he would institute a higher principle. There was a point we didn't even have Mangal Artik. And Srila Prabhupada gradually instituted these things. Gradually he instituted the Mangala program. Before that we were out chanting late at night and the preaching was going on, but he gradually gave us all of these different programs by which we could accelerate the spiritual purification. But he did it in such a way so that we wouldn't become overwhelmed. He was very merciful, very, very expert. And once he even said he cheated us. And we were all very happy to be cheated in that way. Just like there's the warning, don't go to the bank of the Jamuna and see the threefold bending form of Shyama Sundar. Because if you go there, then your material life will be finished. Srila Prabhupada was very kind to us. He always utilized the principle of attraction. In the beginning, he was feeding us constantly. He was feeding the most opulent prasadam as young people. Remember how we used to take prasadam? Unbelievable quantities of rich prasadam in our youth. We couldn't eat like that now. Impossible. It's impossible. But Srila Prabhupada would cook amazing quantities of rich, opulent prasadam. And it was like we were eating our way back to Godhead. He was so kind. And our civilization was it was almost not civilized. There was no marriage. Prabhupada had to even teach us how to get married, how to possibly stay married. Society had degraded to such a huge degree. And if you look now, the influence of Srila Prabhupada, even on the Western civilization, you see everyone's wearing pierced nose, and Indian music is very, very fashionable. Indian dress is very fashionable. Even if you look in the common, just in Western society in the United States today, you will see Prabhupada's influence. People are wearing sikas. They're in fashion. There's sort of a shaved-headed look thing that goes on and a little patch of hair. They're not really understanding that maybe this is Srila Prabhupada's influence, but we devotees are seeing the earmarks of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada has woven into our society this Krishna consciousness. Now, even in this horrible rap music, you're even hearing classical Indian music entwined within it. It's amazing. Srila Prabhupada's influence is just, one might say, insidiously intertwining itself through all of society. And vegetarianism is extremely popular. And this is all due to Srila Prabhupada's mercy. This 10,000-year, this golden age. We're riding the crest of a wave of Srila Prabhupada's mercy that's just crashing over the planet. And I'm very grateful to have been able to get one tiny grain of that mercy. Actually, I still have rice from Srila Prabhupada's plate that I saved. I still have some prasadam from Srila Prabhupada's plates. We saved everything. I have stickers from his dhoti. Because I used to do his laundry, so I felt these stickers were very fortunate. I have those stickers. I know it sounds trivial, but for me, I have a piece of clay that Srila Prabhupada stepped on. You know, for the devotees, any moment, just a moment's association with the pure devotee is life-changing. And it doesn't only change that person's life. It changes everybody's life that comes in contact with that person. Why is it that the evidence of Vedic civilization, you're seeing it everywhere? Everywhere. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. My beloved godbrother, His Holiness Raadhanath Maharaj, is the Acharya at embarrassing me.
Thank you very much. Nicest thing you ever said to me.
I guess you want me to answer some questions. Are there some questions?
Maharaj,
Mahaprabhuji.
I'm asking a question which I'm completely confused. And the question is that why Lord creates certain situation like Kadam Muni and Diti was put in such an embarrassing situation at the evening time, and to fulfill the desire of Lord, when Jay and Vijay was doing their duty in the background planet, and 4 Kumars were forced, means cursed them, because Lord wanted to enjoy the pastime with devotees, fighting with them and creating all the situation of Ramayana and Mahabharata, by which we think Ravan has kidnapped Sita, but actually poor Ravan was he was the Jay or Vijay, and he was just fulfilling the desire of Lord. So how to understand all this complicated question?
Well, now I'm completely bewildered because there's so many things to unravel there. But a few things can be said. And one is that Krishna acts to glorify his devotees. It's a characteristic of a devotee that he'll do whatever there may be to satisfy Krishna. And Krishna always favors his devotees. So his devotees will even take the role of demons for the pleasure of the Lord. And even when the devotee becomes apparently a demon, playing like a demon, and Krishna acts for their glorification and welfare. Krishna always glorifies. Even to be a demon in the association of Krishna is also glorious. There are so many ordinary men, we never hear anything about them, nobody cares about them. But the names of Kamsa, Ravana, they're famous. And they're somehow or other connected with the eternal pastimes of the Lord. The pastimes of the Lord are all instructive also. So we learn from the apparent fall of Jai and Vijay, of the dangers of Vaishnava Aparad. From Bhuvaneshwar, they've just published a very nice magazine, like Krishna Katamrita. One issue completely dedicated to the subject of Vaishnava Aparads. And it shows on the cover a mad elephant. Because you cultivate a garden, you plant a seed and you water it and so on, and it grows very nicely. But if a mad elephant comes, he can stomp everything and finish all your effort. So, an offense to a devotee, to a Vaishnava, is like that. By offending devotees, we can ruin our spiritual progress. And the Lord showed us that in the pastime of Jai and Vijay, that you've offended the devotee, I can't protect you from falling to the material world. And at the same time, he told how dear his devotees are to him. The Lord said that I would lop off my right arm for the sake of my devotees. The devotees are so dear to me. So that's also instructed. And another instruction, that what will be the benefits of illicit sex. This Nitya Vairina, the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita that this material desire, especially sex desire, is the enemy of the conditioned soul. Nitya Vairina, lusty desire. So that desire has to be controlled by following regulative principles. By following regulative principles, the Lord says, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshva. The sex life which is followed according to regulative principles is also a representation of Krishna. And having children in Krishna consciousness is also devotional service to the Lord. But sex life without any rules and regulations is the sex life of the animals. And instead of expecting auspicious children from that kind of sex, we can expect such children as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, those kind of unwanted children. So there are many instructions. When Krishna does something, he does many things at once. He glorifies his devotees. He instructs us about devotional service. He discloses to us his own spiritual qualities, his affection for his devotees. Many things at once. Is that okay? Okay. Question? why do bad things happen to good people? Well, that question was already answered when it was answered by His Holiness Raadhanath Maharaj, and quoting Srila Prabhupada. Then I think I would be rash to say anything more. The question is answered. God helps those who help themselves. It means that we need the Lord's mercy, and our own endeavor is also required. So how to get the determination for that endeavor? Yes, God helps those who help themselves. Prabhupada said, help yourself means to become Krishna conscious. And that requires determination. So how to get that determination? Again, several things can be said. One thing is that one can look within oneself and find that determination. And if one looks within oneself and doesn't find that determination to serve Krishna very strongly, then at least one should follow the principles by which he can develop determination. We may not have the determination by which to do great things for the service of Krishna. But if we can at least find the determination to do the smaller things, to rise early in the morning, to chant Hare Krishna on our beads, to read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, just the determination to follow the routine practices of Krishna consciousness. That determination will strengthen us, and from that we'll get determination to do more. Enthusiasm. How do you get enthusiasm? By being enthusiastic, Prabhupada said. Enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. The more you become enthusiastic, the more you become enthusiastic. So the more one becomes determined, the more determination one gets. It's something like money. If you invest it wisely, it becomes more money. And again, invest it wisely, it becomes still more money. So determination also, now we're using our determination, the same determination that we don't have for Krishna consciousness, we manage to find for sense gratification. So if we turn that determination toward the service of Krishna, one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time, it will grow stronger and stronger. And another answer is that we develop determination by associating with those who have determination. We ourselves may not be strong, we ourselves may not be determined, but if we associate with those who are strong, those who are determined, then our strength and determination will grow. That those qualities are transcendentally infectious. Ooh. It's like New York. His Holiness Raadhanath Maharaj talked about continuing Krishna consciousness even against difficulties. When we see very senior devotees compromising the principles, we feel demoralized, being neophytes. How to explain our mind not to offend these devotees and continue our Krishna consciousness? How to explain our mind? Okay. Of course, it's always disappointing when someone who's practicing Krishna consciousness gives up the practice or compromises the practice. We're always sorry to see that. And naturally we ask, well then, What about me? Can I continue when such senior devotees are having difficulty? What will happen to me? But on one side, we have to see that Krishna's instructions are being confirmed. Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita that you can expect that there will be those who, even after long practice, deviate from the practice of yoga, deviate from the path of transcendence. Vimudha Brahmanapati, in the 6th chapter, Lord Krishna mentions that. We're instructed that the path of spiritual realization is like a razor's edge. If one is inattentive while shaving, even a little inattention, you'll cut yourself. So if we're inattentive in the practices of Krishna consciousness, we can retard our progress or fall down. So when we see these things happening, although it's unhappy, it also confirms the science. In science, you make predictions, and when the prediction is fulfilled, then you say, yes, we had the right principle, our theory is correct. So the fall down of a devotee confirms also the teachings of Krishna. That if we neglect the regulative principles, if we associate too freely with the opposite sex, if we neglect our chanting, if we offend devotees, if we do this, if we do the things that we're told are detrimental to Krishna consciousness, then that effect may come, that we'll be held back or we'll fall down. And then again we're told by Krishna, Nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tatagachati, that even if one does fall down, still he's come out ahead. Still better than never taking up Krishna consciousness. If a person gives up his prescribed duties in the material world and due to immaturity falls down from the spiritual practice, still he is ahead. Even if in this life, of course in this life he may come back, but even in this life he doesn't come back, in the next life he'll come back. That's described in Bhagavad Gita. Srimatam Sruchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Prashta Vijayate. The yogi or the devotee who falls down in his next life takes birth in a wealthy family or a Brahminical family, or in a family of transcendentalists, devotees. And Parvadehikam, because of his previous practice of devotional service, again, he automatically becomes attracted to the principles of Krishna consciousness. And he goes forward until he reaches the goal. That happened in the life of Bharat Maharaj, such a great king, and he gave up his opulent kingdom, his beautiful wife, everything. He just tossed it. Bhagavatam says the way one leaves the place where one passes stool, that he just gave up his whole material life. And he took to the transcendental path, and then became attracted to a little deer and fell down. So one may say, just see, he gave up something for nothing. But in his next life, again, he took birth as Jadbharat, a Brahmin. In his next life he became a deer, and he associated with devotees, with transcendentalists. And in their association he made advancement, even though he was in the body of a deer. He remembered, I was a deer and I did this. And then in his next life, he took birth as Jadbharat and attained perfection of Krishna consciousness. So even if it takes more than one lifetime, what is the loss there? Better than going on, if we go on for millions and millions of lifetimes, successfully wasting our lives in forgetfulness of Krishna, what is the gain? And if we make some attempt at advancement in Krishna consciousness, even if we are interrupted, still it's not a loss, still it's forward progress. So we have to see it in that way from the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. There's one bogus person. In fact, there are many like him, just a few miles from here, who claims to be Krishna. He is very popular. As devotees, we sometimes get genuinely angry at this nonsense. Is it advisable to confront him directly and smash him? Well, it would be very pleasing, of course. But you might get in trouble with the police. We should smash them by spreading our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. They're such fools that even after they're smashed, they'll think, no, I'm ahead. I'm Krishna. They're so ignorant that even after when they're smashed, they won't know that they're smashed. But there may be some intelligent fools. What can you do? It said there's no instruction that you can give a fool. What good is instruction for a fool? It's as good as a mirror for a blind man. He won't get any benefit. But if we spread Krishna consciousness very vigorously, at least the intelligent people will be saved from this, the clutches of such foolish men. There are so many bogus men, so we should push forward our philosophy very strongly. That's the main thing. Confronting him might be fun too. But as you say, there are many such bogus men. So you confront one and the next rascal comes, you confront one, the next rascal comes. Main thing is to push forward the real thing, and in the presence of the real thing, the bogus thing will be recognized as bogus. The glowworm appears to be very brilliant until the sun comes out. And then the glowworm is nothing. So we should spread this sunlight of Krishna consciousness, and the glowworms will automatically fade out. What are the factors that lead one to becoming an empowered preacher of Krishna consciousness, and how to cultivate them? I'd like to find out also. One time, there's a devotee in New York whose name is Petit Udharan. He's our godbrother. And once Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture in New York, and after the lecture, when Prabhupada called for questions, this devotee, he had a little bit of an oratorical nature, he would speak very demonstratively. He said, Srila Prabhupada, he began, Srila Prabhupada, we have a great desire to preach. And before he could say anything more, Srila Prabhupada said, just keep that desire, that's all. So it's very instructive actually that one becomes an empowered preacher by having a great desire to be an empowered preacher. That Advaita Acharya was calling Lord Chaitanya. By his intense desire, Lord Chaitanya appeared. Srila Prabhupada said about his spiritual master, Tarichcha Vallavan. His desire is very powerful. And by that desire, Krishna consciousness will spread all over the Western countries. The desire of a devotee is a very powerful thing. So therefore Prabhupada said, just keep that desire. And again, if we associate with those who have that desire, then we'll develop that desire. And also in a practical way, preaching is called Bhagavat Vidhi. And following the regulative principles, the temple worship, the day-to-day routine of Krishna consciousness is called Pancharatriki Vidhi. These two go side by side, Prabhupada said, like two rails of a train. So to maintain strength and develop still greater strength in preaching, one should simultaneously maintain great strength in the temple programs and the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. The two will reinforce one another.
Haribo. Maharaj.
Time. Yeah. We'll answer some more questions some other time. Thank you all very much.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Tamo Krishna Goswami Niti Namane. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Raadhanath Swami Niti Namane. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Hare Krishna. It's a great honor to be here. Recently His Holiness Raadhanath Swami visited the temples in America, and included visiting the Dallas and Houston temples, which was a great honor because not all of the devotees there had too much of his association before that time, and not all of them had gotten the opportunity to come here and be in this wonderful temple. So, also His Holiness Raadhanath Swami visited His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj in England, and it was so much appreciated by Tamal Krishna Maharaj when Raadhanath Swami came. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was going through kind of an austerity, going back into the university. And as Raadhanath Swami is saying, when there's resistance, it tests the devotee. So it was quite a difficult service to go in and deal with all the scholars, the mundane thinkers. So it was a great relief and inspiration for Tamal Krishna Maharaj when His Holiness Raadhanath Swami came. It brought him so much pleasure. And also, this last Janmashtami in Hungary, His Holiness Raadhanath Swami came to the festival there that His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj had organized so beautifully. And this also inspired our Guru Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, so much. It was so wonderful to see Raadhanath Swami went and invited Tamal Krishna Maharaj to dance, and the beautiful dancing that ensued was just so inspiring for all the devotees. He brought so much pleasure to my spiritual master, and also recently in Mayapur at the festival, they spent one nice time together, and a lot of people have, sometimes we don't realize something that we have until we lose it. So a lot of devotees, when some devotee, big or small, disappears in one way or other, we realize what a valuable thing that we have had. So some devotees have realized this about His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, all of his wonderful qualities. At the same time, I think that many devotees in ISKCON have realized that Holiness Raadhanath Swami has some wonderful qualities as well. In fact, there's so many devotees that have wonderful qualities. And I think one thing that His Holiness Raadhanath Swami seems to have in a very wonderful way is that he appreciates devotees. I've seen him go into different places, and he's always appreciating devotees. He's appreciating something good about Krishna consciousness. And so when he speaks about seeing the glass of water and seeing that it's half full rather than half empty, he's doing that himself. He's teaching us by his example in always fanning the spark of Krishna consciousness, always seeing the good. And so I think that we're all very lucky that we have his association, and I know that sometimes you probably miss him here, but you can be rest assured that wherever Maharaj goes, he's the same beautiful gift that he's giving to you, he's giving to devotees all over the world. So I'm very, very honored to be here, and essentially I just come to try to get some inspiration in spiritual life. Hare Krishna.
I'm feeling real greedy at this moment. In Hawaii, New Navadvip, Honolulu, Yatra, we are about ready to go into a 2-month Festival of India marathon, where we will have the question and answer booth up every week for 2-day festivals all over the islands. We're having the Festival of India, Madhua and the entire group, they're shipping their truck over with all the Festival of India displays. We've got the 2 biggest Indian organizations that are helping us. And I beg the mercy of all the Vaishnavas here, and particularly we have the Acharya of questions and answers, and we have Raadhanath Maharaj, Jaya Dvaita Maharaj. We have I'm just begging to perhaps if we could get your association at some time during our festival marathon. It's 2 months, where we have the University of Hawaii for 2 days. We have the park right across from the Art Academy for 2 days, Thomas Square. Then we have Haleiwa Beach Park right during the International Surf Championships for 3 days. And then we have L185 Beach Park which is right across from the biggest mall, right during the heaviest shopping season for Christmas, for 2 days. And then we have 2 days during the most intense vacation period. It's the 28th and 29th of December. Right between Christmas and New Year's is vacation season. Everybody comes to Hawaii. And we have Kapiolani Bandstand, which is right in Waikiki. So it's a big, it's going to be a huge venue there for us in Hawaii. And then in January we have Kailua Beach Park and Chaminade College. We have some other events in January. Anyway, I'm begging to get the Association of the Senior Vaishnavas through this marathon festival in any way, shape, or form for a day, 2, a moment, any amount of time. We would be most grateful.
Viva. Should we all take Yatra to Hawaii? Hawaii Yatra. Will they all fit on a boat? Very well. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your great enthusiasm to